In this video, I'm going to tell you if it's possible to complete an Ironman 140.6 triathlon with only 6 months of training. Are you considering training for an Ironman but not sure how long it will take or even if it's a realistic goal? Stay tuned and I'll give you the answers and break down exactly what you need to do to achieve your goals. An Ironman 140.6 triathlon is 140.6 miles long and involves a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike and a 26.2 mile run. And as you can imagine, it's a grueling event that requires significant training and preparation. But what if you only had 6 months to train? Could you complete one in that time? If you've done an Ironman, I'd love to hear how long it took you to prepare, so please let me know in the comments section below. The first thing to consider is your current level of fitness and experience in swimming, cycling and running. If you're already a seasoned athlete who's done some long distance running, biking and swimming recently, then yes, with enough dedication and commitment, it's absolutely possible to do an Ironman race in 6 months. However, if you're completely new to endurance sports, then completing an Ironman might be too challenging with such a short amount of time to train. And if you've had no background experience in endurance sports, you might be better off focusing on shorter triathlons at first before building up to an Ironman. However, let's go into a little bit more detail on all that so you can make the best decision about how long it might take you to get in peak performance for an Ironman. Training for an Ironman takes considerable time and dedication, so it's important to factor in how much free time you have available each week before deciding whether or not it's right for you. You'll need about 6 to 12 hours of training time per week, plus all the additional time you inevitably will spend on things like showering, getting changed, stretching, eating, driving to training venues and maintaining your bike. During your working week, you'll need to find up to 1 hour per day to train for most days. And this might not sound too bad, but it can be tricky if you work long hours or if you've got a long commute. Some athletes work their training into their commute, and that can work well providing you don't sacrifice the quality of your sessions. However, at the weekends, that's when you'll need to find as much as 5 hours on one day and up to 2 hours 30 on the other for your long cycle and your long run sessions. Don't worry though, because at first you'll start off with much shorter workouts and then you'll build up gradually over a period of months to those longer ride and run sessions at the weekends. Aside from finding enough time to train, you'll need to consider your starting fitness, because the less training you have under your belt, the longer it will take you to get fit for an Ironman. You can actually estimate how long you'll need, and I'll explain how. Start by considering this. What's the furthest you can swim, cycle or run comfortably right now? And I mean without extending yourself too much so that you'd feel okay the next day. Well, let's take those starting points as a guide, and then let's assume that you'll be able to increase those distances by a maximum of 5% each week. Based on those starting points and a 5% rate of weekly increase, how many weeks will it take you to build up to swimming 2.4 miles, which is 3.8k, cycling 100 miles, which is 160k, and running 20 miles, which is 32k, in training on separate days? Because those are the distances you'll need to get up to in training in order for you to then be fit enough to conquer an Ironman on race day. And just to be clear, you wouldn't aim to do such long sessions every day, but you would need to cover those distances during your longest workouts. So let's say that it takes you 16 weeks as an example. Well, you should then add another 8 weeks to that to allow for things like vacations, active recovery periods, busy periods when you can't train, periods where you've got a cold and you don't want to train, and a taper phase, which would be in the last week or two before your race. So in that scenario, the 16 weeks then becomes 24 weeks. But you need to work it out for yourself really, so give it a try using the 5% method. As well as your availability and your starting fitness, you should also consider your life situation. Ironman training can be an all-consuming pursuit, so your training needs to fit around everything else. Ideally, choose a time in your life when you don't have too much going on, because Ironman quickly eats up any spare time you might have. Aside from all the training and preparation, you'll also have periods of tiredness where you just want to relax on the sofa. And this often happens at weekends. And if you have kids like me, you'll know that peaceful sofa time can be really hard to come by. You'll also need to make time for a good night's sleep because it's not really possible to train and recover effectively without enough shut-eye. So in conclusion, I would say that it's certainly possible to get fit for an Ironman in 6 months, especially if you already have a background in swimming, cycling and running. Whereas if you have no background in these sports, it will likely take you at least a year to get in Ironman race shape. Sure, some people do complete an Ironman on less training than I'm advocating in this video, but I've also seen people shortcut their training and fail on race day, and they didn't look like they had a great time along the way either. So for me, if you're going to take on the challenge like an Ironman, it's worth training properly. And if you are looking for help and motivation on your Ironman journey, join over 40,000 athletes who've successfully followed my Ironman training plans, and they come with rapid coach support and cost from as little as $3 per week. So click the link in the video description below to learn more.